Afternoon, everyone. I've recently made a few bits of fruit out of the UFL Bollingbrook, and a few people have asked about how I made them. I'll explain I've used a method that Colin Way once showed us. So I thought I'd give a quick video and show you how I've done it. So to start off with, basically the apple or a pear. The apple, I will tend to use a blank, which is 85 long. This is all going to be in centimeters, millimeters. 85 mil long and 75 wide. For the pear, I'll do a blank of again 85 long, and in this case this was 60. Generally, I'd use a blank at 70, but it just happened to be this bit of wood that I'm going to be using. The Colin Way method utilizes he showed us how to make a jam chuck, quite fairly simple jam chuck. It relies on, you need to have some a large set of jaws that this will then sit into, because it's basically double-ended. So if I want to do pears, I'll have it that way round, right? Or if I want to do apples, I'll have it that way round, and they just jam in there. Quite a simple little jam chuck. So what we'll do, we'll get going. You tend to do this as as a batch. So we will prep all the pieces of wood, turn them between centres, get them to a certain stage, and then what I'll tend to do is change the lathe configuration and put the chuck on, and then start doing the chuck side of things. So let's get going. Right, first thing we need to do is with our blanks, we need to mark the centres, so we can turn it between centres. Various ways of doing it. I've got one of these centre finders, and so we're going to use that. So across the corners, do that across all four. And where we've got the in the middle, that's our centre. Do the same on the other end. Then just use a little punch mark, put a dent in the centre, and repeat that. We'll do that again on our apple blank. This centre finder just takes out that was pretty square, that end. Can't really see much on this end. That's our ends marked. So I've done another two while I'm at it. So the next bit is we will mark we'll get the lathe set up for the turning between centres. So I'm just using a step drive, goes in that end, and we're doing it using a rotating step drive in the other end. Just line up the holes, the little dents you made in there, make sure it spins freely, tighten the tailstock up and wind up the tailstock so it's nice and tight. Make sure, lock it all off, bring your banjo in with your tool rest. Always make sure that this spins freely and that you're clear, and it's as close as you can without it catching. Very important. Make sure you've got no watches or rings on, and sleeves are all tied up, and I'll be wearing safety goggles. I'm going to get turning this down. I'm just going to use a standard roughing gouge. Just take get it so we're into a cylinder. Turn the lathe speed down low to start with. I've got a variable speed lathe, so I'm turning the speed controller down as slow as it can. We've already checked that it runs freely. Increase the speed up to how you as fast as you're happy with, and off we go. Bring the tool onto the tool rest. That's not doing anything, that's just rubbing the bevel. As I lift the handle up, we start to cut. I'll tend to just put my hand over the top. It just stops the shavings coming up into my face. And we're just going to go along this. And increase the speed a little bit. Going to use the back of the chisel on the top. It bouncing like that means it's not round. Getting there. Right, you'll see that I've got quite a big gap here now. So what we're going to do is just bring the tool rest in a little bit closer. Always stop the lathe and just move it up. Make sure you're safe, and again, make sure it spins. We've got some lovely grain in here. There's a little bit of bits where we might well have to fill, but that's all characters. Character is still flat here, so we'll carry on going. We just want the moment. I just want to get it to a cylinder, basic cylinder. Right. Okay, we are pretty much there. I'm not going too far now. What, as we said, we want a for an apple. The apple. This way around. I want 70 on this. So what I've got on my top of my tailstock here, I've got a little metal ruler just attached on with some magnets. I'll set that to the dimension we want, which is in this case is 70, and then what we'll do is I'll pass this over the top. Well, that was very good guess then. My piece of wood was only just really big enough. I wanted to make sure it's 70. In this case it is. So as you can see, this fits nicely over there. So that's my 70. So that's as far as I would need to go as far as roughing out. If the if it was still too big, okay. So this is going to fit, but what I'm going to do is I'll bring the tool up at the front in until that just pops on, and then I know that's at 70. So at that point we will then just I'm concentrating that this is the widest part of the apple. The rest of it we're going to turn away, so I'm not too fussed about the ends, but we'll just make sure that that's down to 70 all the way along, and that's as far as you need to go at the moment. So we've now got our finished sort of outer diameter. Next we just want to trim out these ends, right? So as you look in your fruit bowl at home and in your supermarkets, fruit apples of all shapes and sizes, so there's no real right or wrong really shape. They tend to be fairly short and squat. So this one is we said it was 70, so in this case I want my apple to be slightly shorter than it is wide. So in this case I'm going to go for 66. So what we'll do is we're just going to mark on here. I'm going to chop off a bit off that end, so we'll go in with a parting tool, and obviously I've already marked this end, so 66 at this end. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll just transfer that line all the way around, just so we can see where it is. Okay, so we're going to lose this wood off the end now. So with a parting tool, I'm just going to trim that off. Right, so that's chopped down to the size. A little bit more than what I really want on that end, but that's fine. It's either, it doesn't really matter. One's going to be the top, one's going to be the bottom. I haven't decided which end's best. Just having a look at looking at the actual shape. So some of your markings on the outside, your grain pattern. There's a bit of a rough area here. That's quite, although it's cylinder, there's a bit of a dent in there. So we might go the top at this end and the bottom where we're going to take quite a bit away. Right, so while we're at this stage, okay, what we want to do is put some shape into it. So I'm just going to use a spindle gouge. Find one. There we go. Just a standard spindle gouge. Don't know what size it is. It's just a gouge. So what we're going to do is we're going to we want to find the when you look at your fruit, okay. So the widest point is fairly towards the top, okay, and going to about on the sort of rule of thirds. So 1, 2, 3, right. So about a third way up, so 2/3 of the way up. That's where our where we want to be. So bit of a guess. 1, 2, 3. So that's going to be my widest point here. Got another little bit of a knot in there, which we will most likely have to fill because that's going to come out right at the wrong point, right? And there's the other bit, right? So that's the widest bit. So I don't want to take anything much off from there, right? But we do obviously want to take off quite a bit from that end. So we can now turn that away. Okay, lay down slow. We can see our line. Bit of speed up. Bring the chisel on. I just changed the camera angle for you. That we had a few problems with the end camera, didn't want to play. Right, so as we see here, we've turned this down and we've gone more or less sort of put about halfway through, slightly over halfway down to the middle, right? Which again, when you look at your piece of fruit, all right, as it comes around here, so we're coming around this part here, and at that point, at one point, it then will then dip down into the center. Okay, what we want to try to do is do as much of this end as we can at this stage, because when we get it into the jam chuck, then we want to do as little turning realistically as possible. It's literally just finishing off the ends. Okay, so what I'll do here is just twist my tool rest around just slightly, move it maybe a little bit, just so I can get a little bit more onto this end. Right, here we go. And start pushing in a little bit. I can take some of this down a little bit as well. But the shape of the fruit, as I said, can vary so much. So we're just gonna use the edge of the tool just to get rid of any minor marks, the shear scrape. Turn it off a bit. Well, again, if you're not confident about moving your tool rest with the lathe on, just turn it off. It only takes a second. Okay, just bring that round. We'll just stop the lathe and we'll just check, see what that looks like. Yeah, I'm happy with that. We've got a nice slight start of a dimple. We're going to emphasize that a lot more when we get when we do the ends effectively. Right, so now we're going to do the same for the other end at the top. Oh, sorry, at the bottom now. Right, so we want to get rid of a lot of this timber now. We just want to blend this nicely into the other shape. Doesn't look too bad actually. A little bit more pointy at the bottom. Knocked out my line slightly there, doesn't matter. I'm going to move this around slightly just to get to the bottom. I haven't got a lot of space at this end, so I can't really do that much on this one. Right, so that's our basic shape. Let's have a look at that, see what we think. Yeah, we've got a few bits of sort of imperfections in here, which will come out quite nice once we get some fill up. We need to fill up some of these little holes. You can leave them, but it's nicer if you fill it. Okay, right. So the next process we need to do is some sanding. So move my tool rest out of the way. This is yew. Okay, now yew is not particularly pleasant, and some people find it very an irritant. I haven't had problems with it as such, but I would strongly recommend put a mask on. It's a bit of a job trying to record this with a mask on. You probably won't hear what I'm going to be saying. So what I bought my dust extractor nice and close. So how that's going to work, whether over the noise, we'll have to see. Right, so I'm starting off basically with it's got a disc of, this is 120. We've got a selection of sandpapers here, 120 up to what's that one? Up to 400, 320, sorry. Okay, so what we're going to do is turn the speed down low. Now, yew is very susceptible to cracking if you get it too warm. So reduce your speed down. Okay, and what I'm going to do is put the dust extractor on and see how noisy it gets. I'm moving the sandpaper around all the time, in little circles, keep it moving. Right, now, pieces like this, okay, it's quite soft. So what we will do is we'll end up getting a bit of this sawdust and getting it into the holes. But first, what I want to do is the what we're going to use is some standard super glue and put it into the holes. But the super glue will tend to sort of stain some of the wood, which in some areas it doesn't really matter because it's marked anyway. So what I will tend to do is I just want to just quickly seal the wood. So what I've got is some cellulose sanding sealer and a spray. Give that a quick shake. Then I'll just turn my lathe down a little bit. I'm going to put the dust extractor on just to get rid of any of the fumes. Okay, right, so now this areas like this, we're just going to gently sand. And all our sawdust, that's why I don't want a dust extractor on at this stage. Right, all this lovely sawdust, I want to try to pack it in to some of these holes. This is a little bit time consuming part, so I'm just going to pack that in. Okay, get a bit of super glue. Just going to stick in all the areas where the stuff is. Just a little bit of tissue, just get rid of some of the excess glue. I don't want it going everywhere. It won't take long to go off. Obviously, it's super glue, so watch your fingers. Wear some gloves if you want. Again, just sand over top. We're just trying to create more dust. And now I've got some super glue in those grooves. It'll help to fill them back up again. A bit more. And it's just a case of we just carry on doing this. It's going to take a little while to do that. I'm not going to bore you with the detail on this any more than we need to. Again, just little. While that area is drying, I'm just going to turn it around and see what other marks we've got. We've got a little bit more in there. Find a nice clean bit of the sandpaper. Go across the grain just to get a little bit of small sawdust. Come on, a lot of super glue, just a smidgen. And try not to glue yourself to your tissue, which is quite easily done. Okay, let that dry a bit. Right, there's another bit around there somewhere. Here, another big bit. So let's get the sand, sawdust in there. pack it in. Also, if you know, some of these, some knots might not be quite as stable as they first look, so sometimes it's worth just putting a little bit of the glue onto any knot areas. It's going to make areas like this slightly darker, but again, not too fussed about it because it's going to, we can get rid of some of this stain, and you can see it's gone quite dark around here, but we can, some of that's going to sand off. Some won't, but most of it will. A bit of sandpaper. Take your time over this process, because what we want to achieve is a nice, a nice finished piece of fruit that's got no sort of great big dents in it. Unless you want the dents, you can leave them in. So it's your personal preference. I prefer them to be, I want them sort of a nice finished surface on them. So we'll do this. I'll do this process until, and all we're trying to do is just build up that sawdust till the point of, we've got we've filled up all the holes. Yeah, the other side's doing. If you do decide to obviously turn the lathe on and spin it, just be mindful of the fact that you've got super glue on your piece of timber that may or may not be completely dry, and what you don't want is a face full of it. Make sure you've got some eye protection on, definitely. Well, you should have eye protection on all the time when you're using a lathe. I currently have got, I can wear glasses, I've got the some over spec ones, but my preferred thing I normally wear is a full face screen, full face mask, one of those bionic, what are they called, bionic ones. That's really quite good, and it just keeps all the bits going in your face. The amount of times when you're turning and you feel something hit your visor, you think, well, that would have been my face. So, think about it. You've got to look after yourself. This one's taken, this wood here is a little bit softer, I think, because it's taken a little bit of extra filling. So what I might do is build a bit more in there. That's it, nearly stuck the sandpaper between my fingers. And if you've got a good piece of wood to start with, generally this whole thing is really can be quite quick once you get going. Typically, the first piece of wood I picked up has got some flaws in it, but this will show you how we can overcome that and make it all nice and a nice finished product, he says, hopefully. So I'll stop the recording there and continue this until we're up to the point where we're happy with it. So this has taken a little bit more work than originally envisaged. Okay, but we're quite happy with that now. Give it a final sort of going over. What you'll find is as you sand over it. If there's any little slight sort of dimples in, or still little faults in it, it'll appear sort of lighter than the other areas. So you just need to go over them a little bit more. So we'll just now just spin this up and just go through get the dust extractor on, and we'll go through the various grits. That was 240, going up to 320. It was nice and smooth. We'll stop that a sec. Where's it gone? I had a tack cloth somewhere. Right. Tend to use the tack cloth. Okay, it's chestnut product. It's like a woven sort of material. It's got a very slight grease. Feels like slightly greasy or something on it. But that just removes. I'm just going to go over that. Just make sure it removes all any tiny little bits of dust. Once the packet's open, I tend to put it just in a screw top jar just to keep it relatively clean. Not that the shed's very clean. Right, next bit is we're just going to give it just another quick coat, spray of cellulose sanding sealer. So again, turn that thing on. Just putting the dust extractor on, just quite very quickly, just takes those fumes away. And my dust extractor has is one of the Camvacs dual motor, and the outlets of it basically join together and goes outside the wall of my shed. So that then makes sure the smell goes outside. Right, the next things will use is the 3 loads of NIWeb. You've basically got it goes green is the 400, equivalent to 400 grit, red is 800, and then we have the amber, which is the 1000. And there is a white one as well, which is basically that's a zero, has 0 grit into it, so it's quite used for denibbing. And so what I'm just going to do here is I'm just going to just lightly run over the whole of the piece of fruit, go through the various grits. So that was 400. So I'd have previously gone up to 320. So that's the 400. Now we're going up to 800. Oh, it feels lovely and smooth. And then finally the 1000. Probably could do with replacing this stuff, this piece. So it doesn't feel. Oh, that's what happens if you put too close. You don't want to do that. Okay. Just do that. Go over it again. That's why you never wrap it anything like that around your fingers. And your best bet for using any tissue, don't use cloth. Use a piece of tissue or safety cloth, because it will just tear and not pull your fingers into your piece of work. Right, so that feels really nice. Yeah, that's good. Still a little bit lumpy bumpy here. I might carry on doing a little bit more with that. Not quite happy with that as it stands, but I won't bore you with that. So we've now got our apple to the point. I'm happy with the finish on there now. So because the lathe is set up for between centres, I want to then prepare. Looks like I'm going to have similar sort of issues with this. So we'll take this one off. I'll just release that. Okay. The centre holes on the end of these are going to become very important, as you'll see later on in the video. Right, so we'll pop on a piece of wood that's going to be the pear. Obviously I'm stopping and starting this for um, the video's sake, but generally you can rattle through these quite quickly. So I'm going to um, turn this down to the to a cylinder. I'll put it on fast speed so you don't have to watch it all. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet now. Right, as we said earlier, for a pair, we want 54 mil diameter. So again, I'm going to set my gauge vernier calipers up to 54. You can make these whatever size you want, realistically, but you know. So this time, this doesn't fit there, so I just need to sort that one out. Now again, the pair, let's look at our picture. Okay, so the pair is widest at that point there. So we are, again, it's about a third, let's say, towards the end. So we're looking at roughly here is going to be our widest point. So I'm just going to go, I'm not really fussed about this end, so I'm just going to um, get this down to the size. Ooh, right, move the camera. That's it, 54. Back to me rough and gouge again. Again, we want to remove, so that's going to be the bottom. So we can move some of this off. Yeah, just using a roughing gouge here just to shape this round. Likewise, I want to get rid of a lot of this timber off this side. Again, the pair rolls round and then goes down to a taper. So this is the quickest way we can get rid of some of this excess wood. Don't want all this. So I'm going to get rid of it all. Just rolling over the roughing gouge. Again, the shape of this part, up to you. It could be a really narrow neck. It could be quite, you know, chunky, whatever. There's no right or wrong way. This is all so far just with a roughing gauge. I'm getting a really quite a nice cut off this. This is you doing really quite nice. With a slight ridge just there. It might be there is a. Let's stop and have a look and see what I can feel. Something round about here, which is slightly raised. I think it is literally just there is a slightly high. Okay, we'll just move this in a little bit while we've got the lathe off. I'm just going to start rounding over this tip. Obviously, you've got the stem center this end, so just be careful there. You don't want to go too close. We're going to do more perfection of the shape. Excuse me. Probably want to go in a little bit more. I felt like it took out that bump. I don't know what flavour pear this one's going to be. There's obviously thousands of different varieties of fruit. And just bring that end round a little bit more. So there we have our basic pear shape. Have a look at that, see what that looks like. Yeah, could be quite lucky with this one. Not too much, not too many imperfections. I don't want that. I want that here. So we're just going to go through the grits again. Quick sand. Get the dust extractor on. Turn the speed down because I'm about 2,500 RPM at the moment. A bit fast. The beauty of variable speed. So that was 120. This is 180. $240. Finally $320. Let's stop that and have a look. Looking good. Some slight sanding marks. I just want to go with the grain. I'll just remove them. Remember, with your sandpaper, all you're doing is removing your previous scratches that you put in with the lower grades. So if this doesn't clear those marks, I'll just need to go down a step, down a grit or two until I do. Then in the cellulose sanding sealer, Nearly dry. Doesn't take long, the sanding sealer. Yeah, that feels dry. Let's go over it there again. 400 on the green. So green, red. It would have been nicer if they'd have gone red, green. Sorry, red, amber, green for their colour schemes, just to make it sort of a bit more intuitive, but and to remember. But I just store these in a in a plastic box, and it's just got written on the end what they are. Because it's pointless sanding down to sort of 400, 600 or something like that, and then go and attack it with those things. You're just undoing what you just done. Right, that's looking good. Pleased with that. So I'm going to get that off the lathe. I will, if I can move things out of the way. Get that out of the way. Move this out of the way. Okay, so next bit is we need to reconfigure the lathe. So I'm going to take my step drive out, revolving centre out, and I'm going to have a knockout bar. Knock out that bit. Put that out of the way. Then I want my chuck. My chuck's an M33, so that's just going to go straight into there. Just lock that off. And with my chuck key, lock that, tighten it off. Pick the right chuck key up would be even more helpful. So what we're going to do is I'll show you the pair first. Right, so within this is tapered, and our pair should fit quite nicely in there like that. Oops, sorry. Pairs fits quite nicely in there. Right, and then when we put it that way around, that fits in there really quite nicely. What you need for this is a stick, basically. Okay, I need a stick, which that's quite long. Right, which is at a point. What I'm going to do is just put this into the jaws. Now, what I've done is my jaws, number one is there. Number one, I've marked off those jaws, so I know exactly that's going to go in the same spot every time I use this jump chuck, because it will make little tiny dents in the wood and the corner of the jaws. Tighten that off. Just chuck it on each one. That's it. Just like that. Then this stick basically feeds up through my headstock and comes out there. You see that? There we go. Let's just put the tail camera in if it's going to work. That doesn't really help matters, does it? Let's move that slightly. Better. So you can see that's going in there anyway. Yep. Right. What I need now is a revolving centre. Revolving centre. It's going into the tailstock. This is just for this short period of time. Okay. Right. So with the stick and my pair, I'm just going to align the end of that into that little hole, and just, no one spotted my deliberate mistake. You might notice I got this thing the wrong way around, so I'll just flip this around. Concentrate what you're doing, it does help. So let's just tighten that back up again. So now we've got the pair end, this end. I thought it was a bit strange, it wouldn't fit. Okay, right, so back to there. So we've got the rotating centre in this end. I've got my little stick in the middle. We're going to put put our pair onto that little point and just gently offer it into the hole for just a sec, just while we put this up to our little pip in the end of the thing. Now I'm controlling with the stick at the other end, down the headstock end. I can move this around. What I'm going to do is just gently push this in. Okay, lock that off, and then I'm going to use I'm just keeping a constant pressure on the headstock, on that stick, and locks off. You can hear it just locking in. Okay, just spin that round. All I want to make sure is that this is rotating nice and even, which it is because you use that stick. Okay, next bit we need to do is I just need to grab my arm in the way. I need to take the I need to put a drill. We need to put a hole in the end straight away. Okay, whilst we're at this stage. So I'm just going to knock the rotating centre out. I'm going to put a Jacob's chuck in there, and I'm going to put in a drill bit. This one's about, I think it's 3.5 mil, something like that. You can obviously make the hole slightly bigger at a later in the process, because what we're going to do is we're going to get a clove and shove that up inside the hole once we're finished. But at this moment, I'm just going to put a hole in the end. We need to put this hole in the end. This is important, folks. Okay, I'll leave the stick in. That will just rotate quite happily. Right, don't want to lock that off. Make sure your things are ready to go. We're all ready to go. Lower the speed down and start your lathe off. Okay, so all we're going to do is just going to drill a hole up inside that apple, pear even, right, just a little bit. Okay, and then take your drill out of the way. Don't leave your drill in your tailstock, because you'll end up putting your elbow in it. All right, now if when you this next stage, stop the lathe. What we're going to do is we're going to now finish off the end of here. Right, and you're going to take very light cuts. If you end up knocking it and the fruit becomes loose, right, that's where the importance of having that hole in there, because we're going to depending on what point you have started cutting in, putting the dimple in, if it moves, you need to be able to recenter it. So you need a hole, so you can then do the same thing as I just did initially with the rod and a rotating center. Just literally recenter it, and we'll do that at the other end as well. So again, important. So at this stage, we don't need to now bring your tool rest nice and close, but not too close, obviously. That will also help and prevent that from coming out. What we're going to do now is we're just going to, if I can get onto the tail camera. There you go. Can you see that? That's not too bad. Right. So I'm a little bit high at the moment. You can see I'm a bit higher than the hole. So I'm just going to go down a little smidge. That's better. Okay. Okay, turn it down. Increase the speed up. And just very gently, we're just going to cut into there. We want to make a little bit of a dimple. We're just going to sort of use the edge of I'm just using the edge of the tool. Just pushing it into that center. What we want to make sure is when we get to the stage of having to put the clove in the bottom, that the clove is going to go far enough in, right, so it doesn't sort of get in the way, so the piece of fruit can stand on its end. Okay, I want a little bit more shape on that. Just again, just using the edge. We only want to take tiny little bits off. Let's just have a look, see at that. That's looking not bad. Right, so move that out of the way. Bring in our sandpaper. Dust extractor. So what we're going to do is just lightly sand the bottom. Just overlap it a little bit to where you have already essentially finished. Again, go through the grits. All the way. Let's just have a quick look, see. Looking good. I'll put the sanding sealer on the end. Also, having the dust extractor on, it's going to help speed up that drying process a little bit. So that's dry. So again, just go over it with our web. Go through the grits on that. There's not much dust coming off this now, so quite happy. That's that bit. Stop the lathe. Happy. Right, I just need to get a mallet, which is the other side of the shed. Just a rubber mallet, just a basic rubber mallet. I'm just going to gently just tap the end of my little rod at the middle, and that pops out just like that. Simples. Right, next. So that's the bottom done. Same process again. We just need to align it all up. So it's a little bit of stuff, just reconfiguring everything. So we're going to put our hole in there, onto that. Bring our rod and get it in the right place. Okay, so I've got my finger on the end of the rod at the other end. Just going to gently just put that in so I can bring that up, get that in place. Okay, mark that off. How are we sitting? Oh, that's running lovely and true. That is. Push that in nice and home. Lovely. Okay, again. Oh, you can't see this. Right, overhead joint. Right, take that out. Drill back in again. Okay, lower your speed down. I don't want to drill very fast. Get all the rest of the remnants of the last bit off the drill bit would help. Okay, a little bit faster than that maybe. Okay, drill in again. Now, when you're going to put your stalks in, a lot of the stalks look better at an angle, so don't go mental with this hole. This is literally give you something in the middle of the top of your pear or the bottom of the pear to be able to re-drill as necessary in a little while. Okay, so we now need to just, obviously we've got an extra bit of wood on here, so we need to just very carefully, see, like the pear. Right, there we go. That's exactly why we have that hole in there. It happens all the time. Okay, so again, just go back, do that again. I'm pleased that happened because that just shows you why we need to do this. Okay, put that in, put that in there. Check that's running true. It is. Lock your tailstock off. Give that a bit of an extra welly. Maybe we'll just give it a A little bit more of a tap. Let's get rid of that. Get rid of the rotating center. Did you see what just happened? When I hit it with a mallet, it has just very slightly knocked it off, which isn't right. So I'll be better off not using a mallet in future. Ignore that, what I've just told you. But because we've got that hole in the center of the top, we can quite easily reset it again. And just watch, this is going to happen again now, isn't it? Just because you're watching. Right, okay, do that again. If it's not running quite center, which it doesn't look like it is, it doesn't matter too much because as you said before, the fruit is all sorts of shapes. Just got to be very gentle. Gentle cuts. It's a bit flat on the top there, so we just want to make it a little bit more rounded off. Right. I'm not as round on the top there as I'd like it to be. So now I've got the top, I think, quite happy. I'm quite happy with it. So we'll just put the tailstock in just to make sure it don't pop out. Position our tool rest. Right. And then we can just now, because we've gone off slightly, you can hear that. Da, 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 da. Having that tail supporting just gives you a little bit more confidence that, well, it can't come out now out of our jam chuck. But if you imagine, if you've not turned all this away and you've left it to this stage, then you're going to be putting quite a lot of force to take all that timber away. So doing it this way, you know, with we have got rid of most of the work we needed to do. So it's only very fine cuts. I'm just literally using the edge of the tool, which probably could do with a bit of a sharpen now. Well, it definitely could do a bit of a sharpen. So let's have a look at that. Get the sandpaper. Not a lot of dust on this bit this week. Let that dry. You can finish the fruit however you wish. My preferred um, finish in this particular case is a buffed finish with the chestnut buffing system. So literally all I've done so far, as you've seen, is it's had a couple of coats of the cellulose, I can't say it, sanding sealer. Um, just want to pop this out now with a mallet, stuck in quite away. Right, so there we have our little pear, looking quite nice. There, so that's a pear. Next bit is I'm going to do the apple. Got a little bit more of a problem this end because I've got quite a long stalk on there. You could, if you really fancy it, you could carve that into a little stalk. Save you a bit of work. And at the bottom we need to sort out. So what I need to do is just get this round the other way round. Put the right end in. Number one is there. And there's our apple. Find our center one there. Push the apple in. Just roughly by eye, just initially. Get that so it's put it in and then tight in place. Good. Now, so this is the bottom of the apple, so we just now need to put our dimple in. You didn't remind me, did you? I need to put that hole in there. See, even if you've done this for loads of times, it's very easy to forget stages. So we're just going to put our hole in the bottom. There, that's our safety hole back in. Back, turn them again. Sorry, you can't really see much of that. There you go. Have a look at that. Alright, a little bit more on that. Got to blend it a little bit more between the where we had turned and our new piece. Literally just using the chisel as a shear scrape, I suppose you call it. Well, it is a shear scrape, but I'm supposing about it. Right, slow it down, get the dust extractor on, get the sanded. Okay, that's dry. Green, red, a bit of amber. Lovely jubbly. Okay, knock him out. Where's the camera gone? There. There we go. Right, so same thing again. Put him in there. That there. I'll stock in. Is it in the right place? Right. That as I've done it up, see, you might not see it. Let's go close. It's just split there slightly. We're going to be getting rid of that. Right, what we're going to do this time, we've got to drill it. So we'll do the drilling first. Once I got rid of the bits of last bit out the drill bit. Now, obviously that's split there now, so I'm just going to take that very gently. Obviously, I've got to go in enough through this piece and into the fruit to make this worthwhile. So just be careful when you're taking it out. It doesn't be prepared for it to, sometimes it might catch on your drill bit and then pull itself out. Right, so now next bit, we just need to remove our big stalky bit, grease our spade. Interrupted, I had someone come to the shed, and as you saw then, the apple decided to, that piece snapped off. So just be careful. You don't really want, probably this, yeah, you learn by your mistakes, don't you? So this apple was probably, the piece of wood was a little bit too long, and therefore that's why it then split. I needed a shorter piece to start with. But I've got that centre hole. Easily recoverable. Your top of your apple is generally Just show you the picture again. This is just a rough picture, but it's quite goes in quite a way, whereas the bottom doesn't. Whereas the bottom doesn't go in that far. So we'll just check that that's okay. Yeah, it's not too bad. No, you can't see it. How about that? Let's get a test dark. There you go. Just give that a little bit more. There. Just to finish off then, just got to sand the bottom. Get it with the knife web. Lathe. Pop them out. Right, so here we have our apple with a nice little dimple in the either end. Now, because it was obviously certain bits sticking out of the this when we're spraying it, we've got a little bit of overspray, so we'll just wipe it around on there like that. Now, it's beautifully smooth. We've got this nice figuring in here. It's lovely. A bit of a cross there. So that's that. So the next stage what we need to do is we need to just polish them, and we'll put it on the buffing system. But as I mentioned to you earlier, normally what I'd do is I would, whilst I was turning between centres, I'd get the other couple done at the same time, and then turn down to the same level. Then we put in, configure the lathe with this on, get them turned, and you can very quickly, once you get into a bit of a flow, you can knock these out really quite quick. Okay, and obviously practice, and we get a good result. So we'll just stop the video and set me lathe up for the buffing system. Right, so now setting up the buffing system. Basically, we've got a thing called a mandrel. So we wind this down, and it just sits in the center of the jaws, tight. Then we have 3 wheels. C, which is the softest, B, and A. So we start off with A. Move him out of the way. Just put this on here. Get that point out of the way. I don't want that out of the way. I generally put a piece of router mat or something just underneath. So sometimes if you're not particularly careful, or these things happen, the piece might just catch and then hit against your lathe bed. Well, your lathe bed's very hard, and your wood's it's soft, so it just gives a little bit of cushioning, right? The buffing system, generally it consists of a brown compound, which is a cutting compound, stuff similar to I think it's called Tripoli. Then we have the white stuff. So this brown one will only ever go on my wheel A. The white, or I think it's sometimes called white diamond, will go on wheel B, and then on wheel C with the nice soft one, you can use some Canuba wax. This is the Canuba wax, really hard stuff. But I quite prefer to use the microcrystalline wax. These are all things that we sell in the club shop, which microcrystalline gives a quite a sort of water resistant coating, and also if you're sort of handling for like pens or for the fruit, you'll get oils and greases from your fingers. It just helps it sort of prevent it a little bit. So to start off with them, so we've got this on. The maximum you want to spin these is 1500 RPM, but again we can just make sure your lathe is turned down. Make sure your tool rest is sort of out of the way, so there's nothing in the way at all. Your tailstock is out of the way. So I'm going to, with no spinning, my safety goggles are on as well. We don't want anything coming off. So I'll just turn this on, and I'll just increase my speed up. Right, that's about 3000. Okay, now with the brown wheel, I'm just going to move the camera slightly, just come over this way a little bit further, because you're not interested in the back of the wheel, because that won't be doing anything. And let's have a look at bring the tailstock camera in as well, if that's going to work. There we go. Let's bring that over a little bit. There we go. Right, so with the brown compound, I'm just going to charge up the wheel a little bit, just rub a little bit over it. And then we're going to get our piece of fruit, and then just offer it up, hold it firmly, get into the groove. Now get a good firm hold of it. Just go round the body of it, right, throwing it on the floor. You can see that we're getting a lovely shine on that. And at the moment, don't forget, all we've put on this is the sanding sealer, and that's just the one compound. So while I've got that same wheel on, we'll do the apple as well that we've done. There's the apple. So again, we'll just go around that, keep it moving, and you sort of want to do it fairly low down the wheel. Sometimes it can be hard just to get down into the dimple. Just use the edges. Again, that looks lovely. There we go. Well, finish. There's still some slight imperfections in this piece here, but yeah, it adds character. So if we now stop the lathe and just wind this off, put your next wheel on. This is B. Don't want the brown stuff. Put that out of the way, grab the white, and again we just charge up the wheel, and off we go again. Sometimes you find that you can get away with just doing the if you're using dark woods, just use the brown and go straight to the wheel A, wheel C for the final sort of polish. But the Triple E is the coarsest cutting paste, I suppose you could say. Then the white, and then the last bit's the polish. So it does make sense. A bit like, you know, when you're using the sanding grits, you know, you work up through the different grits. So, you know, you might as well, you know, you've got these other compounds to use, then use it. That's that one. A little bit more. You don't need very much of it. And these compounds, sticks, well, I've had them for years now, and they've lasted really well. That's it. That's that one. That one out of the way. So this is we'll see. I think Chestnut do a different system as well now. They've got a mandrel which has got all three brushes on, all three mops on. But you kind of want to be able to get to both sides of it. So, yeah, I prefer this way. So, see, again, bit of wax on it. Don't go mental with the wax. Oh, the shine on that. That's beautiful. Now these ones are high gloss finish. You know, you could, you know, if you don't like the high gloss finish, yeah, there's plenty of other different finishes on the market. You could do there's still another gloss. There's gloss lacquers, and there's also a satin, acrylic satin lacquer. Again, it's it's all down to personal preference. What do you like? So again, lovely finish. So stop that. Get this out of the way. I tend to keep this. I've got a box that I keep all the three wheels in, everything in the buffing system, all in the same box. Let's take the mandrel out. Down the right way helps. Okay. Right, I'm going to take this chuck off now. I'll show you why. Okay, so chuck out of the way. Right, the next step is basically to make some little stalks for them. I generally make them out of some African blackwood, but again, you could make them out of anything. You could carve them. You could go into the woods and find some little twigs. I think one of our members had mentioned that they use actual stalks off fruit, but you've got to collect it. Now, what I want to do now is I've got this chuck, which I've got some fairly narrow jaws on it, but it's a three-quarter 16 TPI, something like that, I can't remember. Right, that was off of my old lathe, so I've just got an adapter. Let's just drops it down to the size I need. Let's tighten that up. That's that. Right, next. What we're going to do next is we're going to make some stalks. Right, so I've just cut some little bits of blackwood up. In, I've got a few in this jar. Okay. Now, why I've used this, but I selected this chuck is that this rod will go in. It won't go all the way into my headstock because of the that adapter on it. But basically means I can then push this out far enough. Well, I can generally get probably 1, 2. I might get a third out of this piece, but in this case I only need 2. So what we'll do is we'll tighten that off in there. Bring that in. Take the lock off my chuck, make sure that spins okay. Right, this is a good time for some skew work. Okay, it's just a oval skew, very simple. All I'm going to do to start with is just make this piece a cylinder. Okay, so we're carrying on making this round. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to taper this down to the same size hole as we're going to put into the top of the fruit. Now the hole that I drilled earlier was quite a bit smaller than what I need. So what I'm going to be doing, as if I remember me saying that I want the stalk to go in at a bit of an angle. So I'm going for a next size drill bit up, right, which I'm going to measure just with the calipers. Okay, because what I want to be able to do, and then also this is then locked off tight, I want to make this end so these will slip over it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use a parting tool just to just need to get that down to the right size diameter. So I'm just going to bring that on a little bit higher with my tool rest there. Need to drop that down again. Let's put a bit up. Do a bit more. There you go. Make sure that spins. All right, try that again. It's not going to go into the piece of fruit very far. That's just slipped over there now. Double check that. Okie doke. Right, so that's the dimension we're going to go down to. Raise this back up again. a little bit. Doing a bit now as well. And again, these you can make pretty much whatever shape you want, or thick or thin as you want. But what I'm trying to aim at here, okay, so this is going to go a fair way into the piece of fruit. Okay, now what we'll do is we'll just give it a quick light sand, move the tool rest out of the way. Just go through the grits again. And so, bit of sunny cedar. Dry. Just right. Now, what we want to do now is move your tool rest out of the way so you don't catch it. Lock your headstock off, and all we're going to do, I'm just using a small sort of pull saw type thing, okay, is we're just going to cut that out for an angle. Okay, let's cut that off at an angle. Then what we'll do, so we've got now our little stalk, okay, is I'll just on the I've got a bench sander. I'll just touch that up on the bench sander. You can perfect it. Yeah, you might not have got the cut very nice and square. Actually, would actually come out quite okay. So I might not need to. I might not need to do much with that. I'll just take the sharp edges off on that top edge. So I've just got that off the edges, and obviously don't forget, give that a quick spray. You could go to the whole hog of then, do this before you do the buffing, and then buff them up. Okay, but there's our little stalk. Just put that somewhere safe so I don't lose it. Get my chuck, undo that, and just pull it out a little bit more. And to there, something like that. So we've already got this angle on it now, so that makes it a little bit easier for us. That's how it turns. Okay, then we can just where I used the parting tool before, you could just do it with the skew to see what that's looking fairly close, but not quite. A little bit more. Just put your fingers at the back of it just to support it, because it's quite thin. See if this fits over it now. So that's going to go on, and it's going to go in up to there. So that's fine. It's going to wedge in. We're going to put some super glue when we glue them in, and that will then sort of seep up to this top edge, so that should be good. Just stop that and just have a quick look. Right, now we need to do a little bit more on here, as you can see. All we could do is we can perfect this shape, and we can cut that off, or probably what I'll do is I'm going to leave that and I'll just clean it up on the bench sander. So I'm just going to get a couple of bits of the sandpaper up and just sand that up, moving that out of the way. Feels good. Let that dry. What you could do is stick the piece of wood out far enough. What we can do is instead of doing it in two stages like that, we could put your piece of wood in the chuck. It's going to leave more sticking out. Basically do the same as what we've done. So you actually form sort of taper it off either end, and then cut in the middle, and then you could do two in one go. Effectively, you're doing the center cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to chop that off. So you're going to use the end of my skew. There you go, that's off. And if you just bear with me 2 secs, I'll just go in. Right, so there's the one I've just trimmed up, just made it slightly shorter and just took that step off. Right, so the next part is just to fit this into the fruit, but as I said, we need to just make the hole slightly bigger, because I don't think that won't fit in there at the moment. So with the drill that you measured earlier, I'm just going to put that in at a bit of an angle. Okay, we also need to make the hole, while we're at it, we need to make the hole at the bottom a little bit bigger, because a clove is generally bigger than the hole I've drilled. That one. And then we get our little stalk. So now the stalk is now, you can see that it's off at an angle, and it doesn't look, it's not straight. Yeah, you can position it how you want, like that. Okay, so that's that one, and then do the same thing with the pear. Just make that a little bit. The same. It's stalk. And that's the angle it's going. It just gives it a little bit more character than just, if you just put it in straight, it's going to look sunny. Right, next bit is some cloves. If you raid the kitchen, if you've got any cloves in the kitchen, it's not garlic Italian season, these are actually cloves. Okay, so there's our little cloves. I want one with a, see that? Focus. Pick one with all its little 4 bits intact. You might have some, well, you will have some, which have got the, you see this bit on the top, just with your finger, just that will just come off, and come off quite easy. See, actually, that one's broken off the one I missed 4 bits, which I want them 4 bits. There you go, that's better. That one just snapped off really easy. And it makes your shed smell nice as well. Got all these cloves smell nice. Smells very good. Right, so just find a clove to go in its bottom. Might find the some cloves, the stalk of them are slightly thicker than others, so just choose one that's going to fit your fruit nicely. So that one is going to fit the pear. All right. Let's see if that other one fits the apple nicely as well. Might be a case of is actually quite thin. Might not find that's too loose. That's still too loose in there. So we'll choose another one. Let's make yourself life a bit easier for yourself. Right. So see, that one is quite a bit more chunky. I'll just see how he fits in there. Yeah, that feels a little bit bit tighter. So again, snap that bit off. And it's just going to sit in there. And all we need to do, keep that one for another day. Is that a broken? Oh, that was all right. That's the one for that one. Okay, right. Then all we need to do is find where I put the super glue. Get our super glue. Put a little. Just be careful not to get it everywhere around the hole. Put it in. We don't want too much of a seepage around it. Just while I'm doing that one, do the other one first. If you can get a little bit of the super glue on the outside of the hole, then that will obviously help the don't put too much on. Okay, so that's that slightly. Okay, and then as we said, when we did the dimple at the bottom, so that will stand on there without it getting in the way. So again, we just put a little bit of glue on the stalk all the way around, and then carefully just put it in, give it a bit of a twist. Don't forget, this is going to set quite quick, so make sure you got it the way you want. That's fine. Happy with that. So we'll just put that to one side. Got the stalk out of the apple. Get some super glue. Get some super glue on that. Keep calling it super glue. It's not, just CA. There we go. Right then, let's get rid of the overhead on. So there we have an apple and a pear, all done. So let the glue go off, and then get on with the next ones I've got to make. So that is basically it. Well, thank you for joining me in my shed this evening, turning the apple and pear using the Colwyn Way method, preferred method of turning fruit. Um, he showed us the that process as part of a demonstration he did for the club quite a while ago. And since doing it that way, I found it's much quicker to do it, which is I said to you earlier, do go through the batch process of getting all the different stages and then just sort of rattle them out really quite quickly. So um, hopefully we'll see some apple and pears appearing at the club, and share us your photos of what you've been doing. And I look forward to seeing what you've made. Okay, so take care everybody, and enjoy your turning. Take care. Bye now.